Hey friends, Logan Uri in her book How to Not Die Alone talks about how to decide if we should get married. She recommends going through a set of pre-marital exercises that we can go through with our partner before deciding if we should put a ring on our relationship or not. Now, one might think that we do not need any such exercises to decide if we should marry each other or not, because marriage is the decision should be intuitive and we are in love with our partner. So, isn't that enough? But remember that we often confuse love with that initial high of a relationship where we are both infatuated with each other, and that initial high will taper down over the course of months to years, which is perfectly normal. And because that feeling of initial high would go away a couple of years after marriage, so it is best that we put some rational thought before marrying our partner. And another important reason why we should go through these pre-marital exercises and conversations are we often think that our partner has the same desires as us, which is not true, of course. We think that what we want would be the same as what our partner wants without even confirming this with our partner. So, no, being in love is not enough. It is time to critically think if you should get married or not. Let us now discuss the exercises Logan Uri recommends in her book. The exercise that Logan Uri recommends has got two big parts to it. Part 1 is all about me, and the part 2 is all about us as a couple. Now, the part 1 of the exercise is all about me as an individual. So, before we think of ourselves as a couple, we would want to think of our personal needs. So schedule some time alone and go through these questions all by yourself. So the first question is my partner more of a prom date or a life partner? The difference is that a prom date is someone who is fun only for the moment, whereas a life partner, he may be boring, but he would be by my side for the long run. The second question is to take the wardrobe test, in which Logan Uri recommends that you ask yourself, if your partner were to be a piece of clothing from your closet, what would it be? The way we interpret the answer to this question is, if that piece of clothing makes me feel secure and comfortable, then that is a good sign. Next is to ask ourselves, is this someone whom I can grow with? You would want to be with someone who acknowledges the fact that over time our values and desires change, and someone who is willing to practice these nice little relationship exercises with me from time to time. Next is to ask ourselves, do I admire this person? Next is to ask ourselves, what side of me do they bring out? It is very important that our partner makes us feel secure and comfortable. Next is to ask ourselves, is this the type of person I would want to share good news with? Next is to ask ourselves, when I have a hard or tough day at work, do I want to talk about it with my partner? We would want to be with someone with whom we are very comfortable and open to talk about our struggles and tough days. We are more likely to answer yes to this question if our partner has good listening skills, if they actively listen to us, empathize with us, and not ignore us when we tell them of something. Next is to ask ourselves, do I value my partner's advice? This is about me being a good listener. Am I willing to listen to what my partner has to say? Next is to ask ourselves, do I look forward to building a future with my partner? Do I look forward to achieving key milestones with them, like having a family together with them? Do I look forward to these things? Next is to ask ourselves, is this the type of person I can make tough decisions with? For example, if I were to lose my job, or if we were to lose one of our child, then can I go through tough discussions with my partner, like should we relocate, or how should we manage our grief while taking care of our other children? We would want to be with someone with whom we can have these tough discussions with. Next is to ask ourselves, do we fight well with each other? And this is gold. Some people might think an ideal relationship should not have fights, but I disagree. It is not about not having fights in a relationship, but more about if we fight well or not. And how does one fights well? Well, for one, never ever blame the other person. For example, never be like, you make me feel bad. Instead, what we want to be saying is, I feel this way when you did that. For example, I felt ignored when you didn't return my call the other day, rather than saying something like, hey, you do not care about me. Another great hack to fight well is, let's say if my partner tells me something, then I would repeat that same thing back to them, like what we call as active listening. I would repeat that back to them to confirm if I first understood what they meant or not. And then we could together come up with a solution. This was the end of part 1 of the exercise. And instead of reviewing the answers to these questions yourself, I want you to imagine as if your best friend has answered these questions for their relationship and you are reviewing it for them, because that way we are able to depersonalize and separate ourselves from the relationship and look from a third person point of view and honestly review the answers of these questions. And if this were your close friend and you want the very best for them, what would you advise to them after reviewing these answers to their questions? Are you in favor of their marriage? Or do you have any concerns that you would want to be addressed, or what all things they should address before moving forward with the marriage? Now you should move to the part 2 of the exercise only if you are sure that this is the right relationship for you right now. But if that's not the case, there's nothing wrong with that. You can give your relationship a bit more time and review these questions from time to time again. Now part 2 of the exercise is all about us as a couple. The part 2 is subdivided into 3 parts. The first would be the past, second the present, third the future. Now these are heavy conversations, so you would want to spread these three subparts onto 3 different nights over the course of a month. The goal throughout these 3 exercises should be to be curious about our partner, to not project our own desires onto them, but rather be curious to know what they want and if that aligns with our wants or not. Now, before you start any of these 3 subpart exercises, you would want to share an activity with your partner to feel more connected with each other. It could be working out together, or it could be cooking a meal together, or it could be reading a book together, whatever it is for you to. That would serve as a warm-up for these exercises. Now, let us get straight to the exercises. First, ask your partner what are 3 moments in their past that define them. This is about getting to know your partner on a deeper fundamental level. Next is to ask your partner, how does their childhood affect their present? We often are who we are because of the way we were brought up as children, and getting to know about our partner's childhood, we get to know so much about them. This also helps us empathize with our partner because we come to realize that, okay, like this is how my partner was brought up, so that explains their behavior right now, and I am willing to empathize with that. And getting our partner to open up about it even makes them self-aware about how their childhood affects their present. Next is to ask our partner if their parents used to fight, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with parents fighting. In fact, like fighting in a relationship is good, but what we want to know is how their parents used to fight in their relationship. And were you satisfied with the way they fought? Because fighting itself isn't important. What's important is how we fight with our partner. The key question here is we would want to ask our partner that what are their concerns regarding relationship conflict. By openly talking about their fears regarding relationship conflict, we could together with our partner devise ways, or we could come up with ways that we would be resolving our own conflicts throughout our relationship. Next is to ask your partner what traditions from your family would you want to carry on in our family. Next is to ask your partner how your family used to talk or not talk about sex while you were growing up. Was it something considered taboo, or were your parents open about it? Next is to ask our partner what did money represent in their family. How did their parents used to go about managing finances and all back when they were growing up. The last question in this subset exercise is to ask our partner what baggage from their family life would they not want to bring in our relationship. Like what part of their upbringing would they want to leave behind in the past. This helps each other become more aware of how our past affect our present relationship. The next conversation would be about our present scenario of our relationship. First, ask your partner, do you feel comfortable talking to me about things as they come up? We do not want to be with someone who does not brings up issues as they are arising, rather keep them bottled up. Because what happens is if you were to bottle up these issues and not talk with your partner, they gradually corrode or eat away at our relationship. We would want our partner to be comfortable in bringing up issues as they arise. Next, we would ask our partner if is there anything about our communication style that we would want to improve upon, because communication is key. Someone said that what makes a relationship great is communicating our expectations and coming to a common ground. So yeah, we would want to ask our partner if there's anything we would want to improve upon the way we communicate with each other. Next, ask our partner that do they feel comfortable in being their own self in the relationship, or is it that they have to pretend to be someone else. Next, ask our partner that what all changes would they want to make to our relationship right now, or like is there anything that they would want to change about our relationship. It could be anything. Next, we would ask our partner how well do we handle conflict with each other. Do we ignore fights and bottle up our negative emotions, or do we actively listen to each other by repeating back to them what they said to confirm if we understood what our partner meant, or what all can we do to improve the way we deal with conflicts. Can we read books together on it? Dr. John and Julie Gottman have done a lot of research on relationship conflict. Maybe we both can read their work together and come up with innovative ways to deal with relationship conflict. Next is to ask our partner what is their favorite ritual that they do with us. We could make a time in our schedule to ensure that that activity is being done on a consistent basis. Next is to ask our partner what is something that they would wish we both would be doing more often, and that way we could schedule it in our calendar. Next is to ask our partner how well do we know their friends and family. Is there anyone in their life whom they would want me to know them better? It could be their best friend, it could be their parents, it could be anywhere from their life, and then we could make active effort to get to know that person better. Next is to ask our partner how often would they want to have sex. How can we improve our sex life? Is there anything that I can do on my part to improve it? What is something that you have always wanted to try but have been afraid to ask for? Next is to ask our partner how often do they think about money, or what role does money play in their life? Next is to ask our partner about their finances. Do they have student loans? Do they have credit card debts? And would their debt be my debt as well? Or how would they be going about paying off their debts? This was the end of conversation 2. Next comes the conversation 3, the future. Ask your partner where do you want to live in the future. Would you two be living together, or would you two be living away? If you were to be living away, how often would you meet with each other? Next, ask our partner if they would want to have kids. How many of the kids would they want to have? When would they want to have kids? And if we were to not able to conceive from our own, how would we then go about having kids? Would we go for surrogacy? Would we go for adoption? Or how would we go about it? Next, ask our partner what are their expectations around splitting childcare and household duties. We often go into the relationship assuming, okay, like this, I was expecting this other person to do the same thing. Like I was expecting this person to run these courses, but if I were to never discuss these, then I might be in for a surprise. So it's best if we discuss this. Next, ask our partner how often would they want to visit their family. Next is to ask our partner what role do they want religion or spirituality to play in our relationship. Next is to ask our partner if they would want to discuss a prenup and what fears does that bring up for them. Next, ask our partner how would they want to split our finances. How would we be spending money on household stuff and family? How would we go about our expenditure in general? Next is to ask our partner if they expect to continue to work forever, and what happens if one of us wants to take time off from our work life. Next is to ask our partner if I were to be making a big purchase, then at what cutoff would you want or expect me to discuss it with you beforehand? Next is to ask our partner what are their long-term financial goals. How would we go about saving for retirement, and how would we go about investing money, and how would we go about spending money in general. Next is to ask our partner what are they looking forward to most in their future. It could be discussing what's on their bucket list, or in general, is there something that they are looking forward to in their future. Next is to ask our partner if they have a dream for future and how can I help in achieving that. That was the end of conversation 3. Now, you may feel that these conversations are awkward or being forced, but I think otherwise. I think these conversations are an awesome opportunity to get to know our partner a lot more better, I would say. You both do not have to be on the same page for each and every of these questions. It is up to you to decide what is a deal breaker and what is a permissible pet peeve. For like a permissible pet peeve is something like, even if you two have differing views on a particular thing, it may not affect the relationship on a very fundamental level. Deal breaker is something more fundamental that affects the relationship on a more fundamental level. For example, if one of you do not want children and other one wants children, even if both of your preferences do not align with each other, as long as you both are willing to compromise with each other and come to a common ground, it's great.